I actually called the general.
I'll call the June 15th, 2021 regular meeting to order at 7 p.m. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
McKeever.
Here.
Myers. Me. Truca.
Here.
Sherrick. Foat. Allsept. Here.
You were emailed a copy of the June 1, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Does anybody have any questions on those?
Yeah, that's the other. Never mind. I'm good. It's the second set. I'll sit in that committee.
Well, it's the regular meeting.
You're good.
Okay, need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? And also, you were emailed a copy of the June 3rd special council meeting. Did anybody have any questions on those?
Just correct my name.
Is it currently misspelled?
No, I thought, is this the one with the finance committee? That it said I made the motion?
This is the special meeting. It was before
Okay, never mind.
the committee meetings.
Just want to make sure.
Okay, need a motion to approve.
This guy.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Granting permission for visitors to speak. This is a time that we have public participation from any member of the general public. If you want to address council, go to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Well, this was for the mayor again. So I'm going to read it anyway. It says,
Can you state your name and address?
Carolyn Shireman, Bucyrus, Ohio. I forgot where I lived. Ridgewood Senior Village. Okay. I was doing this for the mayor, but as you can see, another meeting not here. It says, to the mayor, just who are you? You were placed in this seat when Roger Moore passed. It was a seat you did not earn. Then after his term was gone, you ran for the seat and voted in. I voted for you as well as my family. We had the utmost respect for you. Now, I wish I could take my vote back. You have changed since you have felt what it's like to have power. You once told me in an email that I cannot continue to work with you and the positive seekers since you have endorsed and worked for political candidates. The same rule for me would apply to Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions Club, Altrusa, or any of the many churches and civic organizations who do good works for the citizens of Bucyrus. In my opinion, the mayor's office is most effective when it remains politically neutral. This is the mayor saying this. So I would like to ask him if he could explain how you are politically neutral when you accuse me of endorsing or working for another party. For the record, the mayor was referencing Dan Wireball. I'm so glad you came. Whom he thought I was working for when Dan was running against him for mayor. It was from that point that all the previous business sponsorships stopped for the positive seekers. Sponsorship that the mayor called and got for us. You should never have this much control. and while I am at it, you were not here at the last meeting, so I could answer the question you kept asking about government money you denied getting. The answer to your question is, you received an EIDL grant in the amount of $10,000, which is a grant for the businesses through the stimulus by the government. Also, you do not have to pay it back, so I will tell you face to face that you lied to council and the citizens of Bucyrus. Shame on you. To the council, I thank you for your time. For Kurt Fankhauser, continue the transparency. The mayor doesn't like it. And I think Dan Wireball could tell you that I never worked with you when you was running, correct?
Okay, is there anybody else who would like to address council? Please go to the podium.
Good evening. I'm Deb Pinion, 501 West Charles Street, Bucyrus. And I'm here on a much lighter note. I'm here to, I guess you'd say, plant a seed. How many of you are familiar with the 3 crosses that stand on the knoll just south of Bucyrus on the east side of State Route 4? And how many of you are familiar with the story that goes along with them? Well, whenever I tell the story, I am met with people saying, my gosh, I had no idea. I, too, met with the mayor the other day and discussed this with him, and he said this might be a good way to get the word out about what I'd like to see happen, or at least I'll plant the seed. The Roadside Cross Ministry began in 1984 when the late Reverend Bernard Coffindaffer erected the first trio of gold and blue crosses in Flatlands, West Virginia, about 65 miles north of Charleston. The former businessman turned evangelist was called by the Lord on a trip to Israel to build the crosses. He liquidated his business, and under the guidance of what he said was the Holy Spirit, Coffindaffer spent $3 million planting crosses across 29 states, the District of Columbia, Zambia, and the Philippines until his death in 1993. The crosses stand to remind people that Jesus was crucified on the cross for our sins, and there is hope in Jesus Christ. On January 27, 1935, in Craigsville, West Virginia, Bernard Coffindaffer was born. His father died early on, and his mother died of cancer when he was only 10 years old, leaving him an orphan. Despite his very difficult circumstances, he graduated from high school at the age of 14 and served 6 years in the U.S. Marines with duty in the Pacific, Iwo Jima, and Nagasaki, Japan. Bernard graduated from the University of Charleston with a degree in business, and he is the founder of the nonprofit Crosses of Mercy, now called Crosses Across America, Incorporated. Coffindaffer worked in the oil industry and later founded a coal washing business in the mountains of West Virginia. However, he creatively was able to carve a small fortune from his venture. He became a Christian at the age of 42 and eventually became a self-proclaimed Methodist minister serving 7 small churches in Pocahontas County, West Virginia. He was distinguished with the honor of doctorate degree in Florida. After 2 heart bypass operations, Bernard liquidated his business, and 2 years later, what he called a genuine, marvelous, glorious vision. He said that the Holy Spirit instructed him and told him how to go about installing these crosses. Using his own money, Coffindaffer began erecting the clusters of crosses in September of 1984. Approximately 1,900 crosses were built in America, Zambia, and the Philippines. For the 9 final years of his life, he obediently spent approximately $3 million the sum total of his assets, planting clusters of 3 crosses. Site owners donated the use of the land, and Coffin Deffer paid all the bills. The crosses on Route 4 were placed in 1986. There were 4 sets in Crawford County, and to our knowledge, this is the only set that remains. According to Sarah Abraham of the Crosses Across America organization. With this year being the 200th birthday, what better statement for our community than to refurbish the crosses on Route 4? The property is now owned by Mr. Dave Taylor, and he is very willing to allow us the work to be done. The crosses are leaning in a couple of them are leaning. We've been up to the property and taken a look, and they could be easily stabilized. They set on a knoll, which was a perfect place to put them. But since all the time has come, trees and bushes have grown up to the point where they almost cover the cross on the closest to the road. They would need repainted, and I believe that there should be some kind of a barrier put down around them, and then maybe some gravel placed over that so that something doesn't grow up again. And my husband and I would be willing to provide solar lighting to have lights on them. As I said, I'm planting a seed. This is one way of getting the word out. I've talked to several businesses, and they'd be interested in it. I don't think it's a big project. And I actually believe there would be people and businesses in town that would donate their time and their talents, like landscapers or people that have a lift truck, Clady's Paints maybe, or Sherwin-Williams for that matter. It would not be a very expensive thing to do, and I'm sure people would stand up and help with it. Yes? Well, that's what the mayor and I talked about. One of the major companies here in town that I talked to asked if I had spoke to council or to the mayor about it. You know, it's not really in the corporation limits. People think they think of it as Bucyrus as they're coming into town. Support, spread the word, make a donation.
Did the mayor mention the Bicentennial Foundation? Bringing it up to them? Because
He-
you had mentioned it was the 200, I just thought maybe.
He did say something about that, but I don't know much about what's going on with that.
Phone numbers, I'll give them to you after the meeting.
Who's
I'll give you the phone numbers for all the people
involved
involved.
on the bicentennial? Yeah, I guess if I was going to throw a number at it and I'd be highballing it, I'd say maybe $3,000 maximum to get those trees down, get it cleared out, stabilize the crosses, paint them, and the lighting, which I said we would take care of. So
Volunteer a lift truck or what?
I do own a couple lists.
You do own just a couple of them.
that's what I mean. I think that, you know, on all the projects I've done over the years, I find that all you have to do is let people help. They want to help. And so many times people assume, well, nobody would want to help with that, and they go out and raise a bunch of money. There's plenty of people that want to step forward and help. Yeah.
I think that this would be perfect for the citizens of Bucyrus to see the businesses of Bucyrus put forth some effort to do something that everybody can see.
I think it'd be very impressive as you came into
It would
town.
be
It
impressive.
would say a lot about
But the
our city.
businesses should also do something.
Well, the businesses, there's one major business that has said that they'd be involved in it. But everybody's just kind of, I've talked to the Community Foundation, they're checking their bylaws to make sure that they can do it because of the religious connotations. You know, the Bicentennial Foundation most likely could. Any church could. A church is they're not a C, are they? They're a,
It's a different designation.
yeah, it's like the chamber was.
Mr. Ratliff, what's the rules and regulations for putting money from the city outside of the city limits?
You'd have to have the appropriate appropriations, and there would be more requirements on the entity that you're giving it to, the expenses of the entity to, be incorporated, have the insurance and all those sorts of things. I think you may find that it would be more of a burden on them to receive money from the city than it would actually cost to get the project done.
Would it be appropriate if the article about this meeting contained her contact information so that people who wanted to make donations could contact her directly? And I don't think there'd be any problem raising those funds throughout the community, rather than go through all those hoops. Is that inappropriate to ask? Thank you. Word is out.
Okay. Did I mention who owns the property now?
Dave Kaler?
Yeah, and Mary Lou Hastings was the owner of the property before.
Oh, really?
And Mr. just for those of you that are old enough to remember, Pastor Reuben Lutholt,
Oh, he baptized me.
yeah, Mr. Coffin Daffer stayed with him while he was here doing the crosses. And it's just an amazing story that he would, at $3 million, yeah, we throw that around now, but in 1986, that was a lot of money and a lot to give up to do something like this. And 1,900, that's 1,900 sets of crosses, not 1,900. So it's 1,900 times 3 is the number of crosses he put up, so.
5,700.
Anything else?
I
Yeah.
have the understanding that the process is still going on yet, though, because there's a secretary that has taken over, and she's actually soliciting funding, and she continues on.
Yeah, her name is Sarah Abraham, and I've spoke to her quite a bit in the last few days. And I told her this morning, I talked to her, and she's in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And I told her I was coming to council tonight, and I said one of the things that they're going to want to know is, since you do fundraising, do you have any money to give to something like this? And she said the only thing they do is they try to maintain ones that are newly placed, and they're not doing very well at placing new ones. They've done some very large single crosses, but not the 3 crosses. Yeah. I have her phone number too, if anybody would want to call her. So, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Deb.
Deb, people who want to donate, how should they contact you?
Oh, my telephone number, my home phone number is, I'm a dinosaur, I still have one of those, 419-562-3288.
Just 3.
Thank you again.
Dan Wireball, 1092 Martha Avenue, Bucyrus. For 18 months, I've watched as this city council has deteriorated to the current situation. In the 10-plus years that I have been involved in Bucyrus city government, I have never dreamed that our elected officials would allow a threat of refusing to pass legislation over the mayor's veto. For those who don't know, that could include paying city workers, including fire and police, repairs in parks, roads, bridges, garbage collection, and any basic function of the city. All because one individual did not get his way again. This has been a recurring problem for the past 18 months. It all began with a lengthy argument about support of the Second Amendment among a room full of people who had just swore to uphold the entire Constitution. Then, refusal of adherence of the mask mandates that resulted in the resignation of an elected city council member, canceling hundreds of citizens' votes. With the closing of City Hall during the worst pandemic in our lifetime, an open-air meeting in near freezing temperatures was held in an attempt to overturn the mayor's order to close the building. Then the reluctance of Zoom meetings while 90% of the world was doing it. And finally, an unfounded conspiracy of spying that resulted in involvement of the county sheriff's department and the resignation of the council clerk. And finally, in an attempt to get some power in a powerless position, the city council president has proposed to hire his own clerk by redirecting funds designated for the council clerk's salary. Then, when that doesn't fly, he attempts to cancel the city council meetings, effectively shutting down city businesses. It is way past time that this city council does what the citizens elected them to do. If something is preventing them from doing that, then remove it. The president of council serves as the presiding officer, handling parliamentary duties and makes committee assignments. He can't even call a meeting. Only council and the mayor can do that. City council handles appropriations of tax money, manpower, services, tax levies, etc. This latest move has been portrayed as a cost saving to the cities. Some cities do not have a council president. The mayor or an at-large council person presides over the meeting. I'm not suggesting that, although that would be a cost savings to the city. But what I am suggesting is that council has the power to say no. No, we're not meeting outside. No, we're not opening City Hall against the mayor's mandate. No, we are not becoming a party to your petty name-calling discord. Just say no and do something for the people who elected you.
Carolyn Shireman. Okay. I elected a lot of you that are sitting here. I am one of the people. The city council, I don't know what your job is, but I will tell you this. I see a lot of you that's sitting here right now who doesn't have the BALLS's to stand up to this mayor. When I just read this thing that he vetoed this lady from getting paid, he is using her as a pawn to make his point. He's mayor. He's got authority over all of you. So, you know what? You guys should be really, really mad that he overrode you. You guys should be really, really mad that he took the funds that you all allotted for the park or the city lot behind the bar, and he took that money and put it somewhere else without, y'all didn't know. So when is city council going to stand up to the mayor? He seems to be calling all your shots, and y'all just run around with your tail between your legs. Stand up for the people that put you here. I'm here because of that. I'm tired of seeing it. Y'all ought to be really glad I'm not sitting in one of these seats, because one day I plan to.
Anybody else want to address council? Okay, we're gonna move on to the next on the agenda. We have to accept and file for our records the veto letter.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The letter is accepted and filed. Report of city officers. We do not have the mayor here tonight. He did not submit a letter or a report. Service director is not here. He did not submit a report. Mr. Law Director, do you have a report?
I have a 300-slide PowerPoint that I'd like to present.
Nicely did.
No report. Movie night this Friday. Friends of Bucyrus Public Library point out Night at the Museum.
Movie is?
Night at the Museum. Great fun movie.
Mr. President?
Mhm.
I'd like to have a report on when are we going to install those bike racks, you know? There's people I've seen just in the last couple of days that have bikes parked out on the sidewalk, and I contributed to a bike rack over 3 years ago, and
Yeah, I know they have them, and I know they have them. I was actually thinking about it today because I thought about riding my bike to work. And I didn't realize it weren't up yet. So I'll check with Service Safety Director and see if we can install.
And then the other part of it, I know that I can give you like $300 for the bike rack, and you stated that they come in at
Yeah, even cheaper.
$100.
And we owe you a refund for that.
And what I'm saying is, part of it, I'll take the money and we'll give it to Deb Pinion. If you can just write a check right to Deb Pinion,
I don't think I can write a city check to her.
all right, write it to me.
I'll
and
write it to
give
you and
her.
you can make a
You can
donation.
just sign it over to her.
All right,
Yeah,
There you go.
we could do that.
maybe that'll hurry the process.
That's a start.
Anything else? Anybody have any questions for the Law Director? Hearing none, moving on to the auditor.
I don't have any report this evening, but I do have a couple referrals that need to get taken care of as soon as we can do it. We need to appropriate from unappropriated street construction, maintenance, and repair funds, an additional $50,000 for engineering costs for the 2022 street projects. Lynn McKeever is getting started on that planning now, so that everything's in place and we can get the bids done early next year, instead of waiting until next year's budget and, you know, dragging this out. You get a better price if you get in early and get moving, so that's the purpose for that. We also need to appropriate from unappropriated theater demolition / art park funds. The amount of, this is basically grant money and the advance that we put in at the end of the year. $109,151.91, that's to finish the Shines Art Park project and to return the $75,000 year-end advance back into the general fund. We have 2 final bills to be paid for the park project completion. Deadline for completion is June 30 of 2021. And I'll have the breakdown for the committee at the next meeting, whenever that's scheduled.
75,000 coming from where?
It'll come out of that theater fund, the art park fund, back to the general fund. Because at year end, we hadn't received any of the grant money yet, and we couldn't have the fund in the red. So we advanced from the general fund to that fund, so that once we got the grant funds, we could put it back, and that's what we're doing.
Gotcha.
I would like to request emergency legislation for the appropriation for the street construction, maintenance, and repair funds for $50,000, and also an appropriation from the theater demolition art park fund in the amount of $75,000 to cover year ends.
Advance.
You're in advance. Thank you, Joyce.
Also known as various appropriations.
I figured I'd read them out.
Need a second?
It's nice to give everybody the details, so that way we don't have to worry about not hearing that we didn't give the details.
Then I'll be asking about what's various appropriations.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When we have $50,000 for engineering costs, is that going to Lynn McKeever?
It goes to the company, not to him directly.
Those are McKeever and Associates.
He works for McKeever and Associates.
I thought he was our city engineer.
So there's no projects that we can do with the 50,000 yet this year?
The engineering for this year is already done. This is for
No,
2022.
I just know we got parking lots and stuff that we said.
He's already working on that stuff. That's already in there. This is for next year's projects.
I still think we're to sell the parking lots and be done with them.
It was that easy.
Need a second on Doug's motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The auditor's statement of cash position, unless anybody else has any other questions for the auditor. Okay, the last meeting, we had a statement of cash positions was distributed, dated June 1, 2021. Need a motion to accept and file those.
So moved. Second.
So vote and all set. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jinx.
All opposed?
And you do.
New tonight, the treasurer report for May, distributed for your review. Don't have any report of the police chief or the fire chief. So we need a motion to accept all city officers' reports.
So moved. Second.
Is that McKeever and Foat?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Visitors' input regarding the standing or special committees and city officers. Does anybody have input on city officers' reports from the general public? Seeing none.
That's it?
Old and unfinished business, don't think we have any. New and miscellaneous business. I reached out to a bunch of cities and done some checking on how do they handle their committee minutes and their regular meeting minutes, and not a single one ever has the draft committee minutes ever talked about in a regular meeting. So I think we should not even bring them up until the committee relevant to those minutes approves the minutes, because it just creates all kinds of extra, especially when they're not approved, and we can't approve the regular meeting minutes because they have draft minutes within them that aren't approved, which is part of what we're dealing with right now, trying to get minutes from the last 2 months organized. So, and Joyce, she doesn't think we should read them either, and I agree with her.
Well,
I've seen so many
council meetings
people.
are for city business, not correcting minutes.
I've seen so many people get up out of those chairs and walk out of here because they're tired of listening to draft minutes from totally different meeting being discussed. And, I think back of why were they even discussed in the first place. And at one point, when our access channel was going on, only the regular council meetings were broadcast. The committee meetings were not broadcast. So it would have made sense at that time to have those committee minutes talked about for the people to hear. But since we are now broadcasting everything, including the committee meetings separately, it's not relevant to bring them into this meeting.
So you're suggesting that they be brought up during the next committee meeting? Is that what you're saying? Like, finance minutes will be discussed at the next finance?
So here in the since Friday, she drafted the committee minutes and a special committee meeting, which was emailed to you. They're not in this packet tonight.
Right.
They will be brought up at the next committee meeting for approval.
Okay, that's what I meant. Okay. I
Just
understand.
kind of similar to the traffic commission. And,
That makes sense to me.
and then that also brings up, because the last time this was discussed, last summer, it was the council clerk, Todd, at the time, he said, well, we got to bring them into the regular meeting minutes because how else do we get them into permanent records? The permanent binders in the fireproof safes. Well, I have since found out that the committee minutes are not, there's no statute with the Ohio Revised Code that says they are to be kept in a certain format. We could keep them,
Yeah, but for transparency, it looks better that way, doesn't it?
well,
I thought so.
We can accept and file.
We
them.
can accept and file them.
From the committee meeting, we just accept and file and put them in our
Permanent record?
current record, and they're there.
Yeah.
We don't have to read them.
well, here's the one issue I got with putting them in the regular meeting minutes. When somebody down the road comes and finds these regular meeting minutes, within those, there's going to be committee stuff talked about. For a couple years before I really started getting involved here, I didn't know that that wasn't happening in that meeting. Like the stuff that was discussed in there, I'd get these minutes and I'd see the date and I'd be like, okay, on that date they talked about this. Well, no, they didn't. It was at a previous date, but it was in that other meeting's minutes. No other town or city is putting their committee approved minutes within their regular meeting
Council
minutes.
That
I
makes
like them in
sense.
there. I like them in there.
Well, at least get them approved out of committee before we put them in
Even if
there.
we have to put a special subject heading at the top of them inside of the wording.
At least get them approved out of the other committee before they even get brought back to the regular meeting.
I keep talking repair work from doing.
It's on.
So we're going to hopefully not have these meetings draw out for an extra hour and a half for some other meeting that didn't even happen in that regular meeting. I'll probably get chastised for it, but we'll deal with that later.
What was Rob gonna say? He was,
No, I was just gonna say that one of the issues when they're all in that packet together is finding specific committee meeting minutes. One of the difficulties we have is if you want finance committee meeting minutes from June of 2017, it's difficult to find those because you've got to find what council meeting they're associated with. And if they don't get approved, if you have a committee meeting on June 17th and you have a council meeting on June 20th, if at that council meeting they don't get approved and accepted, then they may get associated with a different council meeting. When Kurt asked me about this the other day, what I agreed with and what I told him that you could do is all your council meetings in one place, all your finance committee meetings minutes in one place, all your public lands and buildings minutes in one place. You could cross-reference them that in this committee, in this council meeting, we adopted all these minutes from the prior month or whatever it is. But having that in a separate place, it makes it easier to find just finance when the auditor just needs appropriations information. Or most often what I'm looking for is public lands and buildings because I'm looking for an easement or something like that. And I think that would make it easier and more transparent even when you can look specifically for those minutes and it's not buried within a bigger packet of minutes. You can still have them in that bigger packet of minutes, but also at least having them in that separate, these are all those, I think would be helpful.
well, to expand on that, when we were discussing Kincora Drive, when we were discussing Kincora Drive and the sewer problems that we were experiencing and stuff like that. That would make it easier to be able to actually access just what we had talked about in that committee.
Right, right. And it doesn't mean you can't put them in both places, but having them, in that other format so that it's not dependent on getting them approved at the next council meeting. Because that's what's happening now sometimes is whatever reasons they're being corrected, and so that puts them back 2 or 3 meetings before they actually get approved sometimes.
What's Crestline, how they do it?
With the villages, it's a little different situation because the villages do not have as many committee meetings. We have committee meetings every 2 weeks. A lot of villages, the committees may not even meet. Some of the smaller villages even, a committee may not meet once or twice a year. So they don't have that issue, but their minutes are separate. All the committee minutes are separate from what the council minutes are.
Yeah, and I will say, out of all these cities I looked up, only about half of them even had their regular council meeting minutes on their website. None of them had the committee minutes on their website. We are actually way ahead of most other cities in the state. And I'd like to keep getting us even more by getting other things on, like zoning meeting minutes and things like that on the website, but that's a whole nother discussion. So, does anybody have any other new business?
Yes, Mr. President. I just learned that the county is working towards funding water line to possibly Sulphur Springs, or the county commissioners are working towards that.
I thought they sold their system to us.
No. This is a whole new line. Sulphur Springs and Osceola.
I thought they were wanting to get out of the whole water line business.
No, they're not getting in the water business. They're in the works of, with the money that has come in to help residents in the county by helping the city with the water out to Sulphur, Osceola.
So this is going to reroute the line
No.
to Nevada.
No,
I've been hearing rumors about that.
no, that's still going.
This is going to be a separate line.
So are we gonna own this separate line, or?
I don't have all the information yet. I'm just saying the commissioners.
Brought that up. Should have kept that one under the hat mark. That's gonna confuse people more than anything.
Well, it's already out in the county, so, because people are coming to us
I've
about
already been
it, so.
approached about it, asking me, why are you guys changing the water line route to Nevada? I said, well, I don't know anything about it.
No, to my knowledge, that's still going as planned.
I wasn't talking about debate, I was talking about, he brought up Sulphur Springs, and there's not a lot of information there. That's why I said maybe you should have kept that under your cap. That's why I said that, not about debate.
No,
There's still
That's
engineering
just-
going on.
there's-
Once
right there.
all the engineering's done, then
yes.
If you go north of Nevada, you go through Osceola, so.
But that's what is in the works.
But he just said the line was still going to Nevada like it was supposed to.
Right.
It's not going to reroute
And
Osceola.
also Stetzer Road's going, progressing.
When he started out, he started at Sulphur Springs.
I said the county is investing Sulphur Springs, Osceola. I didn't say anything about changing or altering
That's what I was.
Nevada Road, Nevada or Stetzer. We can't do the Stetzer because it would change the EPA, would have to go through the whole thing, and we would be put back at least 6 months. So we are doing our own on Stetzer.
But so, Doug, we're already getting attacked over this, and we don't know nothing about it. So the rest of us need to know what's going on.
Right, I'm just saying, he brought up something that didn't have any really information behind it. That's why I said don't cause more confusion, because that's how that happens. People start talking, and then we end up with rumors, and we end up with confusion.
But they come to us and we still don't know nothing.
Well, I've had township people coming to me already and asking, hey, we know there's engineering going on.
Well, Bruce is the service committee chair. He should know about all this before anybody else does. Yes, Carolyn?
Pull Lynn McKeever in again.
Yes. Yeah, you can go back up.
Okay. Mark McKeever, thank you. Because what you just did was brought transparency to everybody on here. And that was the right thing to do, whether they knew about it or not. Bruce, thank you for letting them know that you have been approached about this. This is what council needs to do, not jump on each other's throat and say, oh, I don't think you should have said that. Yes, you should have. Because the people watching on this thing here, they'll have the answer that you just give in this discussion. So that vetoes a lot of the problem. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Good job, Mark.
Okay, any other new business?
Mr. President,
Yes?
do you need to excuse the?
That's the next thing I was gonna ask.
I make a motion to excuse
Kevin and Aaron,
Second.
first was McKeever, second, Mr. Truca?
Jimmy.
Oh, James made the first?
Yeah, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Need a motion to adjourn.
So
What about
moved.
referrals?
Oh, we just got the ones that Joyce did, the various appropriations. Huh? Oh, almost forgot. Bicentennial Parade entry form. This came into the office today, specifically to council, asking them if we wanted a float or a vehicle.
City truck. And those two usually are the ones that are in. Just saying.
So do we want to put a float in or a truck with you on it or what?
Parade, I got a line parade up.
Okay. Everybody already knows who we are. I don't think we're gonna be in it. I'm not gonna be in it. Yeah, I don't want to get booed.
Could you take a moment and explain to people while we're on tape that the fireworks isn't at the,
They can wait until Friday. I'm going on a podcast on Friday on the radio,
oh, okay.
and it's in the
Top secret.
Telegraph.
Form, she actually put a newspaper article out, it's on Facebook, on the Bicentennial's webpage.
Page, it's everywhere.
Okay.
And there'll be more stuff coming
I
out
had
soon.
people asking me questions about it, so maybe everybody doesn't know.
They will on Friday.
Okay, need a motion to adjourn.
So
Who seconded that?
Amen. You're right.
Who seconded it?
That's a really good idea.
Okay, all in favor to adjourn, say aye.
time's up here.
All opposed? We're adjourned at 7:49 PM.